I was a bee and my pronouns were bee buzz. And then me as a therapist was an affirming bee buzz therapist. So I gave the bee buzz some honey. Here's your honey, and I won't tell your parents.
Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast, where the truth will set you free.
Welcome. I'm here today with licensed social worker, author, and speaker, and one of my favorite people, Pamela Garfield-Jaeger. I'm so excited to have you on, talk about your new book. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you have been shaking and baking and moving all around to so many cool, exciting things. Before we get into the book itself, can we just talk a little bit about like how exciting your life has been recently?
I guess things look more exciting than they are.
On social media, they look exciting.
I was just at the Student Action Summit at Turning Point, so that's probably what you're noticing.
That's a big one.
And I'm a TPUSA ambassador, meaning I got a lot of followers on Instagram, enough for them to like what I'm doing and actually subsidize trips to go to their events, which is really cool. So I went to promote Froggy Girl, which is my new children's book, and I did several interviews. A lot of them are not out yet. You'll be seeing more as they roll out. It's not up to me, but you'll be seeing more as they go.
That's so cool. I mean, it must feel like a whirlwind to you with all this.
Yeah, this is my second round of this because I had released that other book, A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families. Mouthful. I released that and I made a lot of connections through that, and people had found me, and so that now as happily I have a few more connections to do it the second time. But yeah, it is a whirlwind for sure.
Cool. So let's get into what is the book. And if you're a regular viewer of this or listener of this podcast, you've heard a little bit about this book before because last time you were on, you read us a little bit of it. So tell me about Froggy Girl.
Yeah, so I have it right here. This is the hardcover version. The illustration is done by a detransitioner, a man who used to believe he was a woman. So Froggy Girl is about a little girl who wants to be a frog, and her parents affirm her, her teacher affirms her, and her friends are nice to her. But yet, even though they're all doing what they think is the right thing, she still feels sad and lonely because she can't do all the froggy stuff. She can't catch the flies and she can't swim very well. So she feels sad and alone because she couldn't catch a fly. That's when she realized she's living a lie. And then she met this wise turtle who helped her realize that she's a beautiful little girl and to appreciate that. The end.
That's cool. So from knowing you from before, like some of this kind of metaphor is built on your experience of seeing this as a social worker.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest metaphor we can look at is the gender metaphor. However, it doesn't necessarily need to be that. It could be other things. People who are just pretending to be something they're not to fit in or to run away from something. That's a natural feeling that a lot of young people especially have. And so this book tells the lesson that to appreciate how you were born, you can't run away from that. And you might actually have some really wonderful traits, just exactly who you are.
That's really interesting because like when I've saw you talk about Froggy Girl before and since when I've followed her on social media, I've always thought about the like gender dysphoria metaphor. What are some other ways that we can apply like the Froggy Girl metaphor? Like what other areas can we apply this to?
Well, when you're with a group of people and you kind of pretend you have a different personality, like you pretend you like a certain thing. I mean, I'm thinking it's very small. You're around people and you pretend everybody. I used to live in California, okay, and everybody liked going to wine tastings, and I realized it took me a while. I was like, I don't like doing wine tastings. I'm not happy doing wine tastings, and I was just a lot happier just acknowledging that this is not what I like to do. I'm not pretending to be something else. That's a really minor thing, but I'm just thinking about how we try to fit in with people, like young people, especially teenagers. You want to be with a certain clique. You might pretend you believe in something you don't. You might want pretend you do believe in God when you don't. You might pretend that you don't believe in God when you do. So there's a lot of belief systems. I think people pretend they just and they tiptoe around things and they don't recognize that this is exactly they should just be genuine.
That's so fascinating. You know, I feel like that's just so common, this idea of like, gosh, I don't like this thing even though everyone else does. There must be something wrong with me. Like because I'm not like what's wrong with me for not fitting in? Why am I different? You know, that seems like such an applicable metaphor for like so many different things in life.
Really, it is. Yeah, it's pretty profound actually to think about. Like we're doing this a lot. Sometimes you have to do it a little bit, right? There's a little bit of that we do in life. We're not gonna just walk around like farting and doing crazy stuff.
That's what I was just thinking. Like I don't fart everywhere I go. I was just thinking that you do have to pretend a little bit.
So I'm a social worker with kids, so I'm a little funny. I may crack myself up at least. So I mean, there's a oh my God, the last time I was on a different podcast, I was crying because of something, and now I can't stop laughing. It's a lot of stuff. Anyway.
I just want to know, I want you to know, reality therapy is a safe space. You can fart here if you need to.
Okay. Well, luckily the headphones won't pick it up. I mean, we need to conform. Oh my God, I'm crying. Okay, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry, guys, who were listening to this. Anyway, it's not that funny, but so the point is, yes, we have to conform to a degree, right? We're in a professional setting. We need to behave professionally. We need to conform to a certain level. However, I think a lot of times we overdo it and we lose ourselves. And I think we need to recognize, who we are. And I really was crying because I was laughing so hard. So I'm going to wipe those tears, but I'm not sad at the moment.
I think you bumped your microphone.
Oh, okay, there you go.
There
Can
it
you
is.
hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because when I was super hardcore into the social justice movement, it was like I was playing pretend for something that I wasn't. And the gender identity piece was a big one because someone would say, oh, it's just you can be whatever you want because gender is a social construct. And it didn't make any sense to me, but I pretended so that I could go along with people,
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that because we were just saying right just before I started, I read two of your books and I read Book Mine, and that was one of the themes where you were just asking simple questions and then you were ostracized, but it took you a long time to even think about asking those questions because you were afraid. And now look at you, you have your own podcast, you have what, 5 books, and you're outspoken, and you just seem to have just like blossomed into just telling the truth and what you actually believe. And if you had stayed in that little cave of pretending, I don't think you would have thrived the way you're thriving now. So it's a very similar metaphor.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. So what, like I think, would you say like a potential detransitioner might be like a very, I mean, it's like obviously for a broad audience, but like somebody who's like wrestling with gender identity could be like a key person to get their hands on this book. Would you say?
Yeah, in fact, so in January I was at a meeting, a private meeting with a lot of people who are fighting this whole gender thing, and I didn't have the physical book, but I had the text, and I read it to a group of like 8 detransitioners, some of them that you've seen who are public, and when I got to certain points, they were like oohing and eyeing, and they really loved it. It was really neat experience to watch them react, and I did think a lot of them, the things that I knew about them as I wrote this. It was informed really by their experiences. There is a line on it where they say the teacher gave her a special flag, and the girl was so glad. And so, who gets flags when they take on an identity? It's the trans, right? So that was what I was thinking about when I wrote it. But it really can be brought into other topics.
It's so interesting.
This is the flag, if you can see.
Wow, it feels like
So,
you definitely know what you're trying to hint at there.
yeah, that one's the most obvious one. It's for those that are on audio, it's pink and green and white, not pink, blue and white. So it's a froggy flag, but it does look a little reminiscent of another flag.
Interesting. So, I mean, there's obviously like people like those detransitioners you mentioned. There's the Turning Point USA people. There's me, who are like your prime audience, who are like, yes, go girl. Like, you are getting it. Like, we love this. Have you
Okay.
gotten any negative backlash?
No, I have not yet because I think they don't know yet.
Mm.
So I haven't seen any. Maybe I haven't. I haven't seen it yet. The one, it's not backlash, but the one criticism of the book, which I knew would happen because you can't please everybody, is there is a mention at the end to God. And so some people really love that, and some people, a few people, not many actually, don't like it. They wish it wasn't in there. So um, it doesn't say Jesus or it doesn't quote the Bible, so it's more general. But it does say the last line says, the little girl learned to love the way God made her, beautiful and smart and full of fervor. So a handful of people have said they didn't
That's
like
pretty subtle.
that.
That's not really over the top in your face.
No, that's it. So, but it mentions God, so people don't want that in there. Most people are okay with it. I think even people who don't believe in God are okay with it. They think, to be honest, I'm not even a strong Bible thumping type person. I'm Jewish actually. So, but I think I felt compelled to put it in there, which
Mm.
is interesting. I felt like it was at least something to discuss. It's not saying you should believe that. And I think then that's opens the doors to talk about what do you believe?
Do you feel like faith is a motivating factor for you?
I'm not sure. That these podcasts, people have been asking me that because, of course, that it ends with that line, and maybe I don't know. I'll have to. Maybe I need some therapy to figure that out. I don't know. What I do believe is that it is an important piece, and I think it's something that people should think about. And I guess I mentioned that as the example, whether you believe in it or not. I think it's something you should think about for yourself and talk
Interesting.
about it within the family. I think it's a family matter.
That's interesting you brought up it being a family matter because there seems to be, especially around LGBTQ issues, this like it takes a village model. And like if your parents disapprove of anything, they're oppressive, they're toxic, they're gaslighting you, they're oppressing you, like all this stuff, you need to come to your teacher at school or your school counselor, like whoever, and will like really take care of you, you know. And they're it seems like they're creating this disconnect between the students and their families.
Yeah, I think that's contentional. I think that's the whole Marxism, the division of the family. That's one aspect of Marxism that I believe is being executed through this agenda. I've noticed that overall within our counseling profession. I've been in it longer than you, so I've seen the progression because I actually did a family therapy training in Berkeley, California for an entire year, and it was very obviously family focused. But now the family is being excluded from the treatment. So it's completely flipped. The emphasis of family has been taken away. In fact, I used to think sometimes that the emphasis on family was to a fault in the past because really more when you're dealing with violent families, things like that, or substance abuse, when the parents really can't take care of the children, but the social workers just keep putting the child back with a family that is dangerous. And there have been several cases from the past where a child actually dies because either from abuse or neglect because the social worker believes so strongly that they need to be reunified. And now all you do, you can just use a wrong pronoun and you're labeled abusive and get your kid ripped out of your home. So it's a big contrast.
I haven't seen as much of it on the social worker side, but I've heard so many people, younger people, Gen Z, millennials, talk about how they cut off their family because their family was toxic, and they talk this through with their therapist. And I'm thinking just like, and if your family's like physically abusive, that's one thing, but it's like, my family didn't like what I chose to major in college, therefore I'm going to cut. I mean, it just seems so ridiculous so many times.
I feel like therapists are leading people to become narcissistic.
Hmm.
I don't know if they're actual certified narcissists, but I believe that they are being led in that mind space to just think about themselves and not really consider what is the full picture. And yeah, therapy is just, and also they really take things for face value nowadays, and everything is affirmed, not just the gender, but so if you say, I feel uncomfortable with this person, then the therapist will say, oh, well, you need to self-care and you need to take space. And if it's somebody important, like a parent, maybe there should be more explored there.
Hmm. Interesting. Do you feel like some of this is like a deliberate part of some bigger political project, or it's like poor training of therapists, or reflects the therapist's own narcissism? Like, where's this type of stuff coming from?
I'd say all of the above. Those are some good options there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think therapists are being trained poorly on purpose by I mean, I think when I say on purpose, I think most people who are doing this are not doing it on purpose, but they've been led to do it and to believe that they're doing the right thing. So I think there are some evil people. I don't know who they are, the theys,
The
on the
they
top.
thems?
The they thems. I believe
Sorry.
there are people that are leading our profession down the drain, and I think it's intentional because so think about it. I mean, they divide our families, they lock us down, they provide all kinds of drugs that are accessible, they encourage all kinds of negative behaviors, and then the people who are supposed to help people out are the most crazy, narcissistic, untrained people. And it's they just I feel they want chaos, right? That's what the left is after is chaos. So that's another way they are promoting chaos.
I don't like to jump onto conspiracy theories, but when you lay it out like that, it's just like, wow, that's a lot of, like, it feels like it'd be hard for all that to be a coincidence, you know?
It does. And I've read your book. Your book makes a good case for this. Your book says exactly this in all
Yes,
kinds of
yes.
ways.
Yeah, yeah. Man. So let's get back to Froggy Girl. One of the things I noticed last time when you're on here, you showed me a little bit of it, was how beautiful the illustrations were. Can we talk a little bit about that for a second?
Yeah, the illustrations were done by a man named Nicholas Blooms. We met, well, I knew of him. We talked online before, but we met in person for the first time last year when we went to the American Academy of Pediatrics conference in Orlando. We were kind of commissioned to go there by Jen Specht and Do No Harm to talk to doctors to talk about the truth of the harms of hormones and surgeries, and in general the rush to medicalize children. We even spoke a lot about psychotropic medications and how especially children are put on them very quickly because they're given these surveys and assessed to believe that they're instantly depressed or are bipolar or ADHD without much, due diligence. So we talked a lot about just the rush to medicalize children, and the doctors really agreed with that. And they also just learned a lot from us. It was a really great experience talking to these doctors. Um, Most of them they just didn't know. They never heard of the CAS report. They never heard of the WPATH files. They had no idea what the effects of testosterone is on a woman. They had no idea. They will still crazy if these are doctors, but they believe that puberty blockers are reversible because that's what they're told. And they just believe whatever they're told. They really don't think much about it. So we had these really productive conversations. So it was me, another a mother and another medical mental health professional, January Littlejohn, a lawyer and mother, Erin Friday, also very active in this space. And then I was with three detransitioners. So Nicholas, who's my um, artist, Soren Eldaco, and Chloe Cole.
Hmm.
So I was with all of them. It was very powerful. It's you and I can sit and talk about, we know how harmful it is. We've seen the effects of it, but you're sitting right next to that person that can reach them, that can tell their personal story. It was really effective. So we were so effective that we got kicked out the last day. I don't know if you know this story. We got kicked
Yeah.
out and we were told that we were violating a rule. No, no. I'm trying to get this straight. How they, because basically they didn't have an explanation. Somebody from our group from the year before violated a rule last year, and that's why we were getting kicked out. That was their weird explanation. However, none of us, except one person, was even there the year before, and we were under a different name with a different organization. So the only person that was there last year was Chloe Cole. And we know Chloe did not break a rule. The only rule I could think of she broke was telling the truth.
Mm.
So they kicked us out. They escorted us out the back. It was a whole thing. I videotaped it. It's on YouTube. I think maybe we talked about it in your last
I
podcast,
put a
didn't
clip
we?
of it
Yeah,
in
and
the
you put a clip. We did
yeah.
talk about it. So that's how I know. That's how I know Nicholas in person. And
Huh.
we had already talked about doing this project before we met, and then we realized we were both going to this together. So it was neat. Then we could kind of bond, and then we collaborated on this project. Uh,
So, oh,
so I can show you a few. Go ahead, ask me
yeah.
what you're gonna ask.
No, please, please. I'd love to see some illustrations.
Okay, so it starts off. So the first page is dedication, and the little froggies are so cute.
Mm.
And um, like the perspective of things. Like this is her getting her frog feet from her parents. So it's like, yay! And it has these little curtains with these little froggies on the side. There's all these little details in it, and really neat perspectives and very bright colors. My favorite drawing, actually, that I don't think anybody else could have done in the same way is this one of her so first she's kind of love bombed, where everybody is affirming her. The line is, the girl began to doubt, but all agreed she was a frog, so she couldn't back out. And then there's this drawing of her where she's sitting here like with her arms crossed around her legs, and looks very isolated. And I feel like Nicholas knew how that felt to be isolated, still in her costume, right? Still doing the thing, but not really feeling it right, knowing there's something wrong. So yeah, he did a great job. My other favorite is well, I love this one too. I love the texture of the trees on this one. Like, isn't that neat? Um, and like and the little flowers and the froggies are so cute. Oh, and the turtle, the wise turtle, he's just so adorable. Here she is with him, like, give a look. He's
Mm.
approaching her in the river. When she reached the river, she met a wise turtle with a great bumpy shell. He said, "You can't be a frog no matter how many people you tell."
I just thought of kind of another theme that kind of goes along with this metaphor, and that is like in our culture, I think it comes from a really good place, but this idea of telling kids you can be anything you want to be. And like let's say I want to be a professional basketball player, but I'm 5'4". Like,
Mhm.
you may think you're being kind to that person to tell them to follow their dreams, but at some point the compassionate thing is like the NBA is probably not going to work out for you. You should probably look for another like career, And I think it's the same thing with like this, follow your dreams, follow your heart, do whatever you want, be whatever you want to be. Like, you can't be the other gender. Like you were born a girl, I was born a boy. Like we're kind of set with that. We should probably make peace with that and do the best we can.
It's true. And yeah, we have to be realistic. I think that's what it is. A lot about the left is they just ignore reality. Like you just imagine what reality is, and we'll just force ourselves to pretend that it is. But in the end, we crash. And yeah, if you really try to pursue that basketball career and that's your only dream, you will crash.
Yeah, it's like the Marxist was like a utopia, a society-wide utopia, and the gender thing is like a utopia within my body. I'm gonna kind of surgically and chemically create the perfect body, that it's gonna make all my dreams come true. And it's like just like there's no such thing as a utopian society, you can't build a utopian body either.
No, and it's really transhumanism. It gets really sick and twisted when you really think about it.
Let's go down that road if we can.
Oh gosh. I was just here. I was just actually researching this because I was thinking about making a post about it, but I don't know if it's just too awful. But there's this meme that goes around. If there's countless genders, why is there only surgery for, why are there only two surgeries for male and female? And then I put the comment, I said, that's actually not true. They have non-binary surgeries. Do you
Wait,
know this?
what is that?
they have several different kinds. The ones that I'm aware of is one called nullification surgery, which
Like a
means
eunuch?
they basically make you look like a Ken doll. This is real. I was just looking up these websites because I was thinking about making a post about it, but I'm also just so disturbed about it that I don't know if I want to go down that.
Oh my
The-
gosh.
They also have where I think it's really more for men, where you have a penis and then they'll build like artificial vagina looking thing. So you have like two, both
Both.
down there.
Wow.
I mean, one is not going to work, but cosmetically. And then so I was looking at the websites and they say like you can do this, you can do that. It's like pick a genital. It's very weird. Like build a bear,
Yeah.
build a penis or something.
It's so wild. I mean, I dug a little into the transhumanism stuff before it felt like it merged with gender identity, and it was kind of bizarre type stuff, like putting magnets under your skin to be able to do that, or like just all kinds of just weird stuff to try to merge your humanity with technology in some way.
Yeah,
And it
there's that
feels like
kind too. Yeah.
yeah, it feels like Icarus, flying too close to the sun. It's like we don't know what we're doing messing with our bodies like this.
No, and they don't seem to care. There's no thinking about consequences. It's always about needs and wants in the moment.
Yeah. And I think another aspect of it is even if you set someone free to have as many surgeries and as much hormones and whatever else as they want, like it's not fixing people's mental health.
Mm-mm. It never is. They pretend it does. And if I think that person, some people would say it does because it usually does for the short term, or they'll feel like they're getting their needs met. It's kind of like getting a high, right? You get your hit and you feel good until you have to get your next hit until you crash. But it doesn't really work. And if yeah, I mean, oftentimes people pretend it works, but it never does.
Man, I wanna go back to you talking about visiting with those doctors. It was like you and Chloe and January Littlejohn. There's like a few of you over there visiting with these doctors. You said they'd never heard of this stuff, and
None of
like
them.
in like the circles that you and I swim in, like the W Path files and the CAS report, like that's just second nature to that. We talk about this stuff all the time. And I have to remember sometimes that so many people, even people in this field who are responsible for handling these teenagers or kids, they've never heard of this type of stuff. That's just so bizarre to me.
Yeah, I struggle with that, but I always have to remind myself of that. And that's why my other book that I wrote, the Practical Response book, it's written for what I say, the normies that aren't swimming in these facts all the time. They're not exposed to it. They're not in that's not their algorithm. So they don't know these things. Most normal people, even people who aren't crazy, aren't for this stuff. They just don't know the extreme of it. And quite frankly, I didn't know it 5 years ago. I was not aware of this stuff. I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't know how extremely. I just thought there were some people that had a bad, had a bad outcome. I didn't realize pretty much anybody who goes through this is suffering.
Wow. You know, I think we'd probably agree that surgeries and hormones are not a good solution. What do you think is, because there's some real distress, like you're saying, there's very real distress going on. Like, what is the solution?
I mean, the way I look at it is the gender dysphoria, or whatever you want to call it, the discomfort in the body, is a symptom of something else. So the solution is to address, to look underneath that and figure out what that is for that person. And it could be a combination of things. So if it's trauma, you need to address the trauma. If it's a family dynamic issue with a young person, like a child who isn't feel seen by their family, you got to address the family and the communication. If it's if it's autism, you got to help them cope and navigate life with their autistic traits and help them recognize that they're going to need help with their socialization or their deal with change and deal with structure. And so I think it just depends on the individual. So I don't think there is a one size fits all. I think it's addressing that. And therapy, of course, we're biased. You and I are therapists, so of course therapy is the most natural solution. But I don't. It's not necessarily it needs to be therapy, but it needs to be addressed in some way. I mean, one way is honestly church, a healthy religion.
Yeah, that's so interesting. We talked a little bit about this, the God thing and the religion thing, and from an existentialist perspective, like a lot of our issues in life are lack of meaning and purpose. And regardless of if you think positively or negatively about religion, it's a big source of meaning and purpose, and it works for a lot of people. And I think when we kind of have taken that out of society, there's been this vacuum. And it's been filled with a lot of things, like I work in like drug and alcohol addiction, social media is another one, the gender thing. There's like all these other things that are trying to, kind of fill that void that doesn't seem to be doing the trick, it feels like.
Yeah, and with substance abuse, I mean, that's why the 12-step program was so successful for many people is because of the higher power aspect of it. So that people needed that because you can kind of turn yourself over to a higher power and believe that there's someone or something maybe helping you or just something to believe in so that you have strength. It does give people strength.
I forget who the theologian was who said like the core of all theology is to know that there is a God and it's not me. And I think a lot of this like contemporary culture is kind of like seeing ourselves as a God, where it's like my wants and desires are the greatest end in the universe, kind of.
Yeah.
And kind of like I feel like a lot of people when they have families kind of snap out of that and they realize, oh, I need to be helping other people. And kind of a lot of these younger people, it's almost like worshiping themselves in a sense.
It is an obsession. They are this. They're picking themselves apart. I mean, Nick actually talked about that experience. He used to pick apart every little hair on his body because he didn't feel comfortable. So there's this obsession. It's not always like in a positive regard, but oftentimes it's in a negative regard. But this real obsession about the way you need to be, and you can't be there for others if you're constantly obsessing about yourself and what's wrong with you.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And I can't help but think like this is so reinforced by social media. Like
Yes.
how your perception and like your self-image that's like just so important in a way that, prior to screens it just was not that important.
It certainly has been amplified by social media and in many ways even introduced by social media to some people. So sometimes it comes from within and they find it and it's reinforced online, or sometimes they don't even think about it and then social media plants all those ideas into them. So it goes both ways there.
So you said you haven't gotten very much backlash on Froggy Girl yet, but can we go back to A Practical Guide to Gender Distress? Did you get some backlash for that one?
I got some. I'm trying to remember. Did I get any like really? I mean, I generally get backlash because people, call me. I'm on. Are you on that? I don't know if you're on that website, Transgender Map. There's a website.
Oh, I would feel like I've made it if I made it onto that one. I referenced that in my book, I think. But
Yeah,
something
I'm on
James.
that. Yeah, Andrea is a
Yes,
man.
as a
Andrea
man,
James.
yeah.
Yeah,
I would feel like I made it if I made it onto that.
I've been on that one for quite a while, even before I released that
Impressive.
book. So that was a lot of backlash. Uh, but I'm not really sure. I'd have to. Sometimes I try to Google myself to see what people are saying, but I don't know. I don't really find honestly a whole lot anymore. I think they've gotten tired. What's interesting too is a lot of the trans activists, they just block us because they don't want to see our points of view. I mean, I think they're being told to do that, or it's just they just uncomfortable with it. We're so hateful, we need to be blocked. So they don't. A lot of them don't engage with it. They don't give me a
Yeah.
hard time. They just block it because they don't want to see it. They want to stay in their bubbles.
That's really interesting because, with there's certain things I feel like with the trans thing more so than anything else, like this is like the holy and sacred religion, like the trans thing, and it's like you set a crucifix on fire or something. I mean, just
Yeah.
like the for someone like you to challenge that orthodoxy is just incredibly offensive to them.
Yeah, I felt it. I felt the hate, or I felt the conflict a lot more a few years ago. I don't really feel it as much anymore. Maybe because a lot more people are talking about it. Whereas 3 or 4 years ago, I felt like there were less people talking about it then. I wasn't the only one by a long shot, but it wasn't, it wasn't in conservative media. There weren't books out yet. It just wasn't something people were talking about. So I felt the heat then, and then, but I also, it's like on the flip side, I also got a lot more people telling me, "Oh my God, thank you for just saying what's normal and what's truthful, and thank you for making me realize I'm sane and I'm not crazy." So I got all those kinds of comments.
Yeah, for me, for so long when I was trying to be a good progressive, it's like you see a man in a dress and I think like that's a woman, that's a woman, that's a woman. I'm trying to make myself believe it and like I can't, and so I just like I lie and I go along with it. But someone like you, it's like an emperor has no clothes moment. You're just like that's a man. You
That's what I
know,
did, yeah.
and when everyone else was saying, "Oh, that's a beautiful goddess," you're like, "No, that's a man." Like that's it's. I mean, in 2025, it might not look as big of a deal, but from when you started speaking, like that was so courageous, so you just speak out.
Yeah, I was doing it. I did say that was a man sometimes, but I usually pointed out more with the kids. Like, no, non-binary is not a thing. No, these kids are actually having other issues. No, they need attention, and this is their way of looking for it. No, they're looking for a way to control their environments, and this is their unhealthy way of doing it. This is the hormones and puberty blockers are harmful, and they're not a good solution. So those are the thing. Those are the clothes, the emperor's clothes that I was referencing more than I was less turfy where I was just like, that's a man, you know. I wasn't like the Austin Powers. But I certainly, yeah, I mean, even the beginning, I would tiptoe around that. Now I'm more, I don't, it was a progression even for me to do that.
Have you gotten any professional pushback like this person should not be allowed to be a social worker?
Oh, I used to constantly, I'm kicked out of all the groups now that I used to try to talk to people on the other side. And I'll get comments a lot that say, yeah, I should lose my license, or I can't believe she's a social worker. She's so hateful, or she's so ignorant. I need to educate myself, things like that. So I certainly get those comments. If you look on my Instagram, I have a pinned post. Maybe I took that one down as the pinned post, but I used to have this one of me talking to myself, me versus a woke therapist, and I was talking to myself. One of the woke version of me would say, "Affirmative care saves lives," and then like the normal me would be like, "But like, what about just exploring, underlying issues and doing what our profession always did? Is just, looking at like what's under the surface." And no, you're a transphobe and this is racist. And it's just like me, like I'm being silly, and I'm wearing a wig. Anyway, I got a lot of
I like some of
comments under
your.
that.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so that's where you could look at that post and see some comments of saying, "I can't believe you're a social worker. You're so ignorant." And
I like some of those back and forth videos that you have on like Instagram. I think you have them on YouTube Shorts as well. But I remember there's one where it's like you versus you pretending to be a goldfish.
there's the goldfish one that I already talked about that one, and then the
Yeah.
one I didn't mention in the last one is the bee. Did you see the bee buzz
Oh, I
one?
don't think I saw that one.
Well, I was a bee, and my pronouns were bee buzz, and then me as a therapist was an affirming bee buzz therapist, so I gave the bee buzz some honey. Here's your honey, and I won't tell your parents. So I would like give them stuff. I had this whole thing where I would like find an object to give them to affirm whatever their identity is. So there would be honey. There was the bowl of water that I gave the goldfish. I've been wanting. I have a panda outfit. I have all these crazy costumes. I never did the panda one, but I even bought some bamboo to do it. And then we were moving at the time. And I never actually did it. I should put that one together.
Yeah, you need to do that one in the future. I'll look forward to that one.
Yeah, I kind of lost the energy for it. I was really when things were locked down, and I just thought everyone was crazy, and that was my way to like, let off steam. But I put on costumes, and I was weird.
So you were saying a second ago about like the back and forth between you and the woke therapist. Like you have to practice affirming care, and then you're like, why can't we just look at underlying issues? Um, can you tell me what you're seeing, like with just the politicization of social work and like that kind of like clinical social work?
Social work has gone off a cliff. I could not even talk to a modern social worker now. I can't believe how far gone they are. They're completely irrational. So I don't even know if you call this political. They're just completely, they're so radical. All of the social justice, I mean, everything you wrote about in that book, they believe in tenfold. They're so bought in. The only way I kind of now keep tabs on them is hopefully they're not listening, but I lurk in a few Facebook groups and I just watch just so I can keep tabs on how crazy they are. And a lot of them, they have the posts like, how, I can't even talk to somebody who voted for Trump. How could they vote for hate and for, killing people or all this extreme, oh, you voted for genocide, you voted for, you're racist, you vote, and they're really, the immigration thing is really important to them, meaning they want to make sure that they give our tax dollars to these illegal immigrants, and they feel as though, we're killing these immigrants by not wanting to give them entire free services, the second they cross over the border illegally. So there's that issue too. I don't even know how to talk to them. I used to be really proud of being a social worker. I got my degree at NYU. I mean,
That's
that's a
a top-notch school.
top-notch school in New York City. My first year internship was in Harlem. And, I did all the wokey stuff, I guess, but it wasn't like this. And I don't even know how to talk to these people anymore. They're so crazy. They don't make sense. They don't even understand themselves. It's just like you were saying in your book, like you're trying to ask them basic questions, they can't answer them. That's why they don't answer, not because they think it's like bad or, they actually can't answer it because
Hmm.
they don't think about it.
No. Gosh, like you were bringing up that immigration thing, but it's like this on so many issues. Like, there's a lot of issues I don't have like a hard stance on them necessarily, but why does, like being against illegal immigration, why does that make you like a pariah that's like such a demented, evil person that you should not be in this field? You know what I mean? Like, there's certain issues they say, well, like obviously if you're going to be a therapist, you have to support all these policies. Like, why? You know?
I mean, they look at it, they think you don't care, right? It's all about being compassionate. That's how it's framed. And they think you're not being compassionate. But of course, you're compassionate towards one population, then you're neglecting another population, which are the Americans or people who are here illegally that pay for insurance and need health care and need services, and maybe even people that are also struggling and don't have the means, but they're legal and they have been here in our country, as opposed to the crop of people that just crossed our border that get services first before Americans. So they just don't think about it. They think they're more compassionate.
A cynical conspiracy theorist might say that that's part of the plan to desire people to use up a lot of social services to strain the economy and like collapse the society.
Yeah, that sounds very conspiracy theory like. Yes,
Uh,
all the different ways to create chaos and to put a strain on our society.
hmm.
They don't realize that they're doing that. I really believe most of them are just misguided. I don't believe that they're bad people. I think they just really have not thought it through, and they are hearing those messages. They're not hearing our side. They don't allow to hear our side, and when we do try to speak, we're just dismissed as hateful or uncaring or cold.
Yeah, I tried to separate this out in my book, and I've tried to kind of draw a distinction on the podcast. Like, there's your true believers who I think you probably could have that cynical view towards. Like, they're trying to collapse America because they think America's evil. But most people who like we would broadly consider woke, it's just kind of they're kind of going along with it because either I think this is compassionate or I think it makes me look compassionate.
It's probably both.
Mm.
It's probably both. I mean, well, I was, I'd say I leaned left for most of my life as a social worker from New York. But I never got into the radical phase of how it is today. But I certainly believed in, I thought that systemic racism was real. I believed in, I did not think about the side effects of public assistance until I read more of Thomas Sowell.
Mm.
I didn't realize how a lot of these policies were hard on families, or really in the effect was they were destroying families, or incentivizing them not to stay together. These are things I hadn't thought about myself. And I just thought I was being nice and trying to help people that are, not as well off or didn't have the same amount of resources that I did. And I walked around with that white guilt. It's kind of embarrassing that to say that now, but I don't believe in that now.
It's kind of interesting. I was just thinking about this when you brought up Thomas Sowell. Like, if I were to say, like, oh, if you care about other people, you'll support this government program that I like. That took me like 7 seconds to say that. But if you were to like explain Thomas Sowell's position around why this is actually inefficient and often counterproductive and it kind of hurts the people that, like, if you were to lay out that argument, it takes a long time to lay out that argument,
Yeah.
and someone's going to call you a fascist before you even get there,
You
you
can't
know?
usually get your thoughts out. I've had this experience even talking to people close to me and my family. Before I can even finish my thought, they've already interrupted me and do some what about this or what about that, or they switch the subject. As soon as I actually get my point out, then they switch the subject to something else. So we
Mm.
never actually acknowledge the first point. It just goes in circles. It's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I spent like a lot of time, as you know, like trying to put together what I think is like a thoughtful critique of the social justice movement. And almost any time I ran into somebody from that population who I was like trying to convince of what's going on, anytime I run into somebody, they're like, but what about Trump? It's just like completely ignore it.
And that's what I like about your book, because, well, I guess you call it political, but it's not. You're just laying out what ideas and facts. You're not talking about political figures. And if you do, you talk about just specific incidents. You're not campaigning for one or the other. You're just talking about ideas or things that happened in the moment. I was just telling you before, but I'll share this with your audience, is that it's so weird, but I read your book on my Kindle. I would read it actually to calm myself down at night, because I still feel like I live in this crazy world, and it's so nice to read the words from another mental health I professional, like another person that thinks like me, to be able to, you just laid out just how all this woke stuff is just wrong, and you reference so many details and so many quotes. I don't know how you put all that together so quickly, because there were so many things from, even from not just in the last 5 years, but like longer before that. Like I forgot, like things I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, when like I think it was the kids who they put on the face mask, and they were told that they were it was blackface, and I forgot about that incident. That was a long time ago. And the what athletes were they that were and I don't remember where they were accused of sexual assault, and it
Oh,
was
Duke.
completely false. Yeah, that one, that was a while ago too. I was like, oh yeah. And and all different aspects. There's the sex, the feminist stuff, and all of the Me Too type things, and there's the racist stuff, and of course there's all the gender stuff. There's so many different elements, but they're all the same. They all work together, and they all serve that same purpose, which is to silence people, create chaos. I feel like it's all one and the same. And your book really does a good job of going through all those things.
Thank you so much for that. It means a lot to hear you say that. I really appreciate that. And you were saying like reading the book made you feel not crazy, and
Yeah.
I feel like that when I listen to you, because I'll sit in class and I'm like, is there something? Am I like a psychopath for not buying into this gender stuff? And I listen to you explain. I'm like, okay, like she makes sense to me, So I appreciate that.
Yeah, so like we're helping each other out. But isn't that weird that I choose your book to read to calm myself down? I read through it really fast. I read two of them. I don't remember what the title of the other one was, but it had a lot of the same content from the first one,
Yeah.
from
Another
the
thing,
woke mind.
Another thing that you're mentioning, there's like the race stuff, the feminist stuff, there's the gender identity stuff, like, and they all kind of mix them together as though they're kind of the same thing, but like they're really not. Like you have a lot of like black and Hispanic people in this country that have more conservative views on traditional gender roles and like LGBTQ issues. And, there's a lot of like radical feminists who are not okay with a lot of the trans stuff. So like these groups that you're trying to smash together in the same box, like don't exactly go together all the time.
No, they don't. I mean, what I meant was like the ideas kind of serve the same purpose.
Oh,
But no, but
yeah, no,
yeah,
yeah.
but the people, I was gonna tell you, I don't know if I had told you about this one, but I did a training last year just, again, to kind of lurk, and I even gave it to a reporter. There is an article written about this, where I did a training on the whole transing children thing. And one of the main points that really shocked me was they emphasized that you need to convince these BIPOC families that they need to get their kids on puberty blockers because they really need to know because they're harder to work with because they're harder to convince. So I'm thinking to myself, so you really are the racist ones.
Wow.
They hate black people and how they think because they feel they know better.
Okay, let's bring this full circle, going back to like the eugenics movement in the early 20th century, where it's like, let's sterilize black people.
Let's
and
convince
now,
the parents to sterilize their children.
yes, that's what puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones do. They sterilize. It's like if you came out and said that we need to put a special focus on sterilizing black people, like run that as a headline.
They said that. I have it on video too. I have it recorded, and I gave it to the Daily Signal. I'll send you the link after.
Oh, please do, yeah.
It wild stuff. I was like, wow. I did tweet it when I first saw it, and that tweet is one of my, I don't get a lot of viral tweets, but that one went pretty viral when I tweeted that. I couldn't believe it that they said that out loud. And then I even, because I'm pretending like I agree, so I'm all like, well, I want to respect their culture, but I need to make sure that they understand how important this is. So how do I do both? And the answer was so convoluted. I don't even remember, but it was this whole meet them where they're at, like using all that BS therapy language. Meet
Hold
them where
space
they're
for
at,
them.
hold space, be, but you need to basically manipulate them to chemically castrate their children.
That's insane. My gosh, like I feel like a lot of like educated upper middle class white people got duped into this trans thing, but I feel like a lot of like working class people of color are not going to fall for it,
Yeah, they're better at not falling for it.
Yeah, I feel like this is a conspiracy theory like directed at like higher educated people.
Yeah, there's a quote, Thomas Sowell, speaking of him from before, said something about how educated people are only a really educated person could come up with a stupid idea, like
Yes.
I think it was like socialism or something. I don't know what the actual quote was, but it was
Yeah.
it was referencing socialism, and only very highly educated people can think of that and think it's good.
It's true. It's true. Man, what else are you seeing going on in the world of social justice? Because it feels like we've morphed a little bit. Like there's been like the trans thing. There's Black Lives Matter that exploded in 2020. Like what's going on that you're seeing right now?
I mean, the one thing I'm seeing a lot of is the whole Free Palestine thing. I can't believe how long that's lasted. The Gaza and standing up for Palestinians and not recognizing that maybe they're supporting terrorists. So there's that piece. I just heard my husband, we sit and like read headlines to each other. That's our romantic way of hanging out together sometimes. And he was just telling me today that I think this happened today. There was a Tour de France protester that just got arrested for waving a Free Palestine flag. So it's just crazy how this is still a thing. That's the current thing. And in the social work schools, like at Columbia University was a big one. They really, it was the social workers were leading the charge on that when they were those protests. I think it was last summer for Palestine. I don't know why that's even a social work thing. Why do they care about that? There's so many foreign, there's so much injustice in the world. Why are they so hyper focused on that?
Yes, there's like civil wars going on in like 50 countries right now, And another thing is like the Israelis and the Palestinians have been going at it for like 100 years, but all of a sudden now there's social capital if you're pro-Palestine. So it's like there's something I'm getting out of it for saying something.
Yeah, most of these people have never even heard of it before. I think a lot of them don't even know. I remember seeing those videos from before, and they'd say from the river to sea, and they'd say, well, what river, what sea? And they'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah. I was kind of ahead of the curve on this one. Like I was super into like Noam Chomsky, super pro-Palestine, when I was a lefty, and I started looking a lot more detail in this issue. I was like, I don't know if I'm really as pro-Palestine as I thought. I don't know if I'm as anti-Israel as I thought. Like, the Israelis seem to like be promoting like a pretty free liberal democracy, and the Palestinians are not doing that. You know what I mean? And so like by the time this became an issue, I was already on the other side of it.
Oh, good for you. So I am Jewish and I actually have lived in Israel. And before this was even like a popular thing, I knew a lot about this as a young person. So this would be one thing I would have never been duped on. It's actually interesting to watch my woke Jewish friends who are very pro BLM and pro transitioning kids and everything else, but they are very pro Israel and their little brains are exploding. They don't know what to do.
That's actually reassuring to me because I feel like there's certain issues that like everyone has their woke breaking point.
Yeah.
Everyone has their woke breaking point. I feel like a lot of the Jewish community, when they saw like the pro Hamas stuff, it's like you could see something click there.
Yeah, some of them have clicked or they have this cognitive dissonance, so they still think that they'll still align with the left and they'll align with that other stuff, but they'll just say, oh, they'll compartmentalize the Israeli thing, or I see on Facebook that they'll try to talk to their friends. This is really interesting. I have an old friend who major Trump derangement syndrome, major, and also he was so bad. He was calling for death if you didn't get the vaccine. I mean, all of the stuff. However, he's very pro-Israel. He was with me when we lived together. Like, I had this group of young people. It wasn't with me, but we were in a group. And and also, he's just, he speaks Hebrew fluently, like very immersed in Israeli culture and Israeli history. And he's now telling his friends who are on the left, I just looked at some of his posts. You can hate Trump, but what do you want? Do you want like Iran to take over? Like, what do you want? And then he said, if you hate what Trump's doing, then you should hate what Obama did when Obama bombed Syria. If you're against war, then you should be against what every single president has done over the last 45 years. So you're being hypocritical if you're only criticizing Trump for these decisions and not for every other president, both Republican and Democrat. So he can see clearly on this one issue. It's really interesting to watch how people view things.
Because it's the same decolonial, post-colonial ideology that's driving like the pro-Hamas stuff is like the backbone of a lot of other kind of woke ideas, like critical race theory is heavily influenced by that. So a lot of the other stuff, so it's weird that it's like the same ideology, but you say like it's wrong over here and right over here,
Yeah, they can't seem to see it. They don't get the full picture, but they get some of it. And they're mad because they marched with the black population, stood up for, Black Lives Matter and all of that. And then when their kids were getting harassed in school for being Jewish, no one was standing up for them and they're angry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I got two questions left for you. One, if you could wave a magic wand and fix all the trans stuff, like what would you do?
Well, luckily it's sort of happening. I mean, I'd shut down these clinics and shut down, but I think maybe I would want to just like deprogram all these people because so many people have been programmed for at least 20 years to believe in this stuff, including me. I was programmed. And even before it got really crazy, we were programmed that there are some people in the world that are born in the wrong body, but we have zero evidence and proof of that. So I would love to deprogram people to get those crazy ideas out of their heads and recognize that when someone believes that, it means there's something else wrong. So I think that would go a long way. Probably porn, maybe reduce or shut down porn because I know that's a big culprit. If we could find this isn't a whole other podcast, but like limit these vaccines that perhaps maybe or figure out why there's this big increase in autism because that's another
like COVID vaccine or something else.
I don't know because I haven't gone down all the rabbit holes yet, but a COVID vaccine for sure. I don't think that's causing autism. That's causing all kinds of other problems.
Gotcha,
like
okay.
Myocarditis and blood clots and turbo cancer and all that fun stuff. But I think we need to do more research and figure out the causes of autism I don't actually know the answer to that. But if we could learn, wave my magic wand and learn what's really going on, why are all these kids having this increase in autism? Because some of them are faking it or like playing it up, but there is really an increase in autism in the world that we didn't used to see. We didn't used to see kids struggle this hard. So I think so. Yeah, finding a cure to autism or like understanding what's going on so we can prevent it. And what else did I say? Shutting down all these clinics, deprogramming all these professionals that believe in it, or just all the people, like just deprogramming society so that we don't just automatically believe in these ideas that have zero evidence behind them.
I like that. So my final question, I've asked you this before, and that is, when you look at society more broadly, what is one issue that we're not talking about enough that we should be talking about more? And last time you said marijuana, and I made a nice little video on that.
That was so good.
Thank you.
Oh gosh, so what's another thing? I don't know now. I don't know. I don't have a good answer now because that was my answer. Damn it.
I feel like you would have a lot of good answers, though. You seem like somebody who'd have a number of good answers.
I'm blanking. I don't know. I think I'm so programmed right now to be talking about this stuff, but there's so many other things. What's another thing? I don't know. I don't have a good one. The marijuana thing is always my like just pet peeve that people just don't, on all sides, people don't get it.
It's a big one, yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm pass. I don't know.
I mean, you could use the marijuana one again.
No, but I want to say something else. I'm like in a half an hour, I'm gonna think of something really good. I know that's what's gonna happen.
No, that it is such a good one, and I run into this like working in addiction treatment all the time. Like guys that are like really, really addicted to marijuana, it's screwing up their brain, and they're like, I don't know what the deal. Like, I know it's not harmful, I know it's not addictive, but like I can't stop, and it's messing me up. It's like, yeah.
I mean, okay, here's one. It's not a popular stance because I don't have my own kids, but I'm so tired of all these parenting gurus on all sides of the aisle. Like even Jordan Peterson's doing it, and it's annoying. I feel like people need to listen, like they need to stop like looking for answers from other people and listen to themselves. Like everybody's a parenting expert, and I find it to be really irritating. And and especially the really big ones, like they have these slides and they give you all these different scripts about what you're supposed to say with your kids and do. And I think I think that has messed up society. People have just don't believe in themselves. And this has been going on since the 60s and 70s, but social media has made it exponentially worse. So just all these influencers who have all these answers, and I feel like people need to stop it. And of course, I'm out there giving advice, but my advice is for you to listen to yourself. That's like the big advice. It's not do this, do that. You know, I'll share the knowledge I have as a professional so that you can go and think for yourself. That's what I believe. And I'm annoyed when people give out like all these scripts and these things to say and do, and people just always just want someone else to think for them, especially when it comes to people they love, like their kids.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Well, Pamela Garfield-Jaeger and Froggy Girl, so excited for the new release of the new book. Yeah, definitely thank you so much for coming on, and wish you the best in terms of book sales.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. It's like we both get to fan on each other. You read my books and I read your books, and yay.
I love it.